Okay, we have Mr. Terry Collins with us here today, and Terry, your official title is Tax Assessor for Smith County, is that correct?
That is correct, Smith County Property Assessor. Of course, the taxes aren't set by my office, they're set by the commissioners, but we value every building and all the land in the county, and we do not only the exempt property, which is, we've got values on churches. I guess the only building we have, Mr. Bill, in the entire county that we haven't measured is the dam. So we're going to be measuring Cordell Hole Dam before long, just to say we've got all the buildings in the county on. Even the courthouse that we're standing in, we've got some history facts, I guess you could say, on the property record card for anybody that comes in and wants to research that.
Right. Well, I remember a few years back, I guess it was the federal government made us do an assessment of all county property and put a value on it. So it's kind of amazing when you start figuring out just exactly how much property Smith County owns. It's quite a bit.
It's a lot when you go between the highway department, your schools, and what the county owns. And it's called the GIBBS, which was Government Accountability Standards Act that was passed a few years ago. And we had all that information readily available, and where we'd measured all the different schools and different county buildings, the Turner Building, and which a lot of that was pretty neat to look up and to find.
Yeah, well, that's pretty interesting. The reason I invited you here today is we wanted to be able to tell people kind of what your office does, and maybe you give some of the facts that you think would be interesting to them, and kind of tell them about what happens when they come in. But what do you want to start with?
Well, Mr. Bill, there's several hats that we wear inside the office. Of course, anybody that is looking for an owner of a property, all of that stuff's public information and readily available in our office up at the Turner Building. We value every building in the county, and we value all the land in the county, whether it be government-owned, privately owned, or exempt property like churches and water districts and things like that. We have all that information available. Used to, we had a lot of parsonages throughout the county, and when I got into office, those were not measured or listed, so we kind of rolled up our sleeves and went to work on that, because a lot of those were selling from churches giving like a stipend to maybe the preacher or the pastor of that church versus having a building for him to actually live in. So we had a lot of those parsonages that sold. So that was one reason that we started it. And then I'm kind of a busybody when it comes to that. And it was a treat, I guess you could say, to research a lot of that, talk to a lot of the older builders. And when I say the older builders, I'm talking about people that built houses back in the 60s and 70s. And it was amazing to me. It's kind of like Mr. Bass across the street here, how amazing he is at 96, 97, whatever he is, and remembering all that. That a lot of those builders remembered 50 years ago and could tell you something specific about that house, which is pretty unique.
Yeah, that is pretty phenomenal. Now, if a person wants to look up something, they can actually go online to Tennessee Property Viewer.
They sure
and
can.
They can get most of the information from that. But if you're out there and you can't navigate that, or you don't have that capability, they can come into you and do what you just described.
Correct. We've got Map Viewer, which you can look at the property. The one thing that we have there in the office, either in Jerry Lynn's office, which is the Register of Deeds office, if you've got a plat on a property, and maybe a newer plat than one of the older ones, check with us. We may have that, or we have unregistered plats where we get our hands on and we file them according to the map and parcel. There's about 13,000 parcels, exempt and non-exempt, in the county. We have to look at about a quarter of those each year. So we're in the midst of doing that now. Actually, we're in the Chestnut Mound area coming toward Gordonsville. So we've hit Stonewall, and we ready to hit Gordonsville next. So that's the part that I enjoy. We traditionally go out on Wednesday. The last 2 weeks before this week, we actually measured about 18 new houses. And you say, well, that's pretty good. It is, because it broadens the tax base, Mr. Bill, and the broader we can get that thing, the better. And hopefully we won't have one of those 59-cent increases like we had last year.
Well, it's like me. One time I wondered about us in Smithville. We're roughly the same size population, roughly the same size in businesses, and I wondered, what the difference might be in our penny brings in now about 39,000.
39,000, correct.
Okay, and their penny brings in up in the 60s.
Right.
And it's because of some of that high-level development that they had take place there near Center Hill Dam. It really drove their penny value up.
They do, and they're a flatter county. And when I say flatter, if you'll look at Smithville, you can go 4 directions there. We're kind of between a rock and a hard place, a bluff and a river. So, it makes it difficult for us to expand. They have done that. And, with that lake property, they summoned the Corps to give part of that property back. And once that was given back, there were some $3, $4, $5 million homes that went up in that area, plus some very, very expensive lots. I'm talking about $500,000 to $1 million lots, and really basically on the side of a hill. So, when you look at that, that's how they kind of got the jump on us as far as the value of the penny. Our parcel count's pretty close. They've got more business than us. We've got roughly 700 businesses in the county, at least with personal property accounts, and I think they're right at 900, according to their assessor.
Well, and the difference between businesses too is that not only do they have the real property in the building and the land and parking lot, but they also have the what do you call the other?
Well, you have the personal property.
Personal property.
Yes, sir. And when you're looking at personal property, especially on the lake, you're looking at several millions and millions and millions of dollars on those houseboats and those slips. And those slips are very, very valuable. They charge those people. Some of them are up to $20,000 to $30,000 a year for them to park that boat there. We can't pick up the boat. I guess technically you could if you could prove that they live there all the time, but that's very difficult to do because they do undock them occasionally. But when you look at that, that's one reason the cab is larger than Smith County as far as tax base goes.
Yeah. And when it comes to businesses like industry that are here, that personal property that they have inside those plants, that's quite valuable too. Very,
very valuable, Mr. Bill, because there are dies in certain businesses and tool making equipment that you're looking at $600,000, $700,000, $800,000 for one piece of equipment, which is a lot of cash when it comes to, yes, they do depreciate down, but that's a lot of cash when it comes to personal property. And, we're doing discovery as much as we can. We're doing audits as often as we can. Of course, those things are very expensive. In fact, we just finished an audit. It was nearly $5,000, which is half of our budget. Do we have the means to do more? Not right now because we've had to cut in years past, and that was really the only surplus that we had. But we get back about $8 for every audit dollar that we spend. So it's difficult to cut that just because my office probably could be pretty self-sufficient. In other words, not cost the taxpayers anything if we had enough audit dollars to go around.
Right. Okay. What else would you like to tell the folks?
Well, when you're looking at the county, the appraisal totals nearly $1,500,000,000.
That's for the B.
Yep, with a B, $1 billion. That's a lot of cash. Of course, when you're looking at the land, nearly $400 million, and that includes the properties on Greenbelt where you've knocked down that cost. And then improvement value, you're looking at nearly $900 million. When you also look, there's state assessed properties. You say, well, what is state assessed properties? When you look at your railroads, you look at your cell phones, your motor carriers, there's a ton of those. We have all those accounts. We do not handle those accounts personally. That is handled through the Office of State Assessed Properties out of Nashville, and they do that for all 95 counties in the state of Tennessee. And the big reason is because a motor carrier, it may be involved in all 95 counties. It may involve only 5 or 6 counties here in the Upper Cumberland.
Well, now, there's some relief, like if you're over 65, I believe, you can do a tax freeze, and then you mentioned Greenbelt.
That Greenbelt.
You might want to explain those?
Well, tax freeze and tax relief is handled from Leanne, and I know you're going to have her a little bit later, but there are threshold values on that, and when I say threshold, you have to make a certain number and under. She can give you those numbers. I'm not sure what they are, but a tax freeze, okay, if you pay $500 in taxes, then if you don't make improvements to your your home and it's just normal depreciation, then your taxes would stay at $500. Tax relief, your tax is $500, and the county/state pays $250, and then you pay $250, or whatever that works out to be. She handles that program so she can, tell that a little bit more. Greenbelt is property that's 15 acres or more that you use for farming purposes, or you can do the Forestry Act, which just states that you're using that for logging purposes or tree purposes, and a lot of people are doing that now. They're hiring an arborist to go out there, and you have a 10-year plan, which is the max that you can get on that in order to how you're going to harvest or cultivate those trees.
Right. And when you do go on Greenbelt, how, do they come to your office, or do they go to Lynn's?
They actually come to my office. We have that form in the office, and it's just an 8.5 by 14 form. You need to bring your driver's license and $12 to register it over in Jerry Lynn's office, and you can do that. We will give you a brochure if you don't understand, or sit down and explain to you exactly what happens. Of course, if you've got 18 acres and you sell 4 acres, then you're going below that 15-acre threshold, so you'd have to come off the program and pay rollback for 3 years. So if you're on Greenbelt for 10 years, then you're looking at a 3-year rollback, which is what it would be taxed if it was off Greenbelt versus on Greenbelt, and you'd have to repay that. But if you're on there, right, pay the difference. So if you're on there 30 years, then you're going to get 27 years worth of savings.
Yeah, and it's a good program. I know a lot of the farms that are on that.
They do, and we encourage people to do it if you farm. Now, we do when we monitor, and when I say monitor, we was talking about once every 4 years, we go look at about 3,300 parcels per year, and we're in the midst of doing that right now. We're looking to see that there's farming activity going on there. If there's not, we want to see there's fences. If we go out there and it's growed up and we don't see any kind of livestock at all, then we're calling that person and ask them, hey, did you get out? What? Because, you're supposed to be actively farming that. That's the reason for it's just not a 60 or 70% reduction on your land just because you wanted that break.
Right, and rental. If you got a farmer next door to you and he's renting your pasture and using it,
correct,
then that's okay.
That is correct. That is correct. The law says that you have to bring in $1,500 over a 3-year period, and you can do that with hay. Yeah. Various. Some people have been wanting to try to get on the Greenbelt because of renting it for hunting purposes. With the way the Greenbelt law is written right now, that is not acceptable as a, I guess, one of the things that you can do in order to get on Greenbelt.
Well, and it's a good vehicle if you're wanting to use your property, but like you say, you're not really farming in that case.
It does, and the growth of the county, of course, I've been blessed to be in this position for 15 years. We started out, the value of the penny was about $25,000, $26,000, and now it's up to $39,000, getting close to 40, and that's counting a 6% delinquency. Of course, our delinquency is not that high. You're looking at the delinquency, and Leanne can go into that because she's the trustee and accepts that money, but it's only about 2 to 3%. Last year, I'd say it's probably a little bit higher this year with the, of course, you still got till February the 28th and to pay your taxes for 2019. That delinquency, probably with the property tax jump, is going to increase. It's, us forecasting for that, and you really have to try to predict that.
Okay, well now, say I come out to you, Terry, and I say, Terry, you assess my house at $20,000, and I think it's worth $1,000. Right. And I'm really sincere, and I know I use ridiculous figures there, but I'm really sincere in that. Is there a process to get an appeal to go through to look at that? There
is, Mr. Bill, and when you look, if they'll just call us, and we have a 24/7 answering service, leave us a message, 615-735-1750. Most of the time, it's going to be difficult for you to try to prove that with the market in today's world. I'll give you, for instance, I had a single wide trailer that was a 1970. I'm talking about a trailer that your foot would go through if you stepped in the floor, regardless of your size. And I went and looked at that, and it sat on about 1/3 of an acre lot, and it brought $29,000. and I'm talking about a double or a single wide, not a double wide, a single wide that had about 800 square feet. So to say that the market is good right now is probably an understatement. We, on average right now with our ratio, we're about 13% too low. So that means if you've got property appraised at $100,000, then it's probably worth about $113. In 2022, we'll go through reappraisal again, and once we go through that reappraisal, we can more look at the numbers inside the numbers. Like, for instance, a lot at the interstate, you're looking at $400,000 to $450,000 right now around a half-acre lot, like where Arby's and McDonald's and the different ones that are standing over there. So that's quite a bit of build up. It was around $200,000 when I got into office. So we look at each of these areas. Our least affected area right now is probably the Feedy, Pleasant Shade area. Probably
it's pretty quiet over in Lancaster too.
Right, you're right. It is quiet in Lancaster. The only thing big about Lancaster is the Caney Fork River property.
Caney Fork River and Center Hill Dam is just right there.
And people are, we've seen quite a bit of increase lately over that just because these people really want to get on the Caney Fork. Not necessarily the Cumberland, but the Caney Fork River. I'll give you for example, we had a lot, an 8-acre lot with about probably 5 to 6 acres of that was bluff, and that was over on Ben Gentry Lane. I think it brought about $350,000, wow, which is amazing, and that was nothing on it. I kind of did a double blink when I first saw the deed that came through, tried to investigate, and they said, no, we just wanted it and felt like it was worth that much. So a lot of that property on the Caney Fork is zooming between the dam and the Gordonsville city limits. It's tremendously valuable according to what the market is right now.
Well, so if you assess my house at 25 and I think it's worth $1,000, I might want to just keep that because it's liable to be 50.
Well, we try to fairly assess that, Mr. Bill. We don't treat you any different. If I've known you all your life or that's the first time for you to walk into the office, we go and look at it. I feel like we have a pretty trained staff. We've got over 100 years of experience. I'm the least experienced at 15 years in my office in the real estate field. Teresa Clay is my deputy assessor. She's been in there about 30 years, part-time and full-time. Right. Tremendous asset. I've got Tiffany Holloman that does my mapping and handles my personal property. She's got about 16 years experience. And then I've got Shane Jones as my field guy that comes in a couple of days a week, helps me with a field review. And you're looking at about 25 years experience for him. So we're blessed. Experience is such a valuable asset in that office, knowing what's going on, knowing what you're doing, and I'm blessed to have those guys and girls that are under me.
Well, and I can attest that any time I've ever been in there, they are helpful, they're friendly, and they do their best to answer your question, whatever it is. Yeah,
and I'm just blessed to have them. That was Teresa and Tiffany were there when Mr. Harold Massey, the guy that was before me, was there for 12 years. I brought Shane on board. Miss Ruth, Mr. Harold's wife, worked in there full time, and I kind of cut a half position when I came into office. Everybody thought I was crazy for doing that, but I felt like we could get the job done with 3.5 versus 4. And it's worked well for us. I'm appreciative to the people of Smith County for this opportunity, and I know that with the housing boom that we've had through the years, it's allowed that value, that penny, to go up, and up. And with this, the way today's market is, we're accounting for about 84% of all the tax money that's brought in for Smith County. And when you look at that, that's a lot of weight on our shoulders, because a lot of people in these other offices are really anxious to get that number when we figure that value of the penny, because they know if they're going to have any more what we call growth money, you're familiar with that, being a former commissioner, to where that they can maybe hire additional staff or do additional things. And right now, the way the market's going, that, it's slowed down a little bit from what it was. And, the winter time is our slowest time of the year, but when comes spring, most of the time the market is booming again.
Well, I think you've covered about everything. There may be something that we missed. If somebody's got questions, Give that number again.
615-735-1750. You can leave us a message. We're open 8 to 4, Monday through Friday. You can just call us, and then we'll give you a call back. We'll try to that day, but if you leave it overnight, we'll check it the next morning and get back with you. And there are no dumb questions. I've had people that ask that. They say, well, we didn't want, I said, if you got a question, ask, because I've had everything asked in 15 years. There's not much new that comes with that, but I just encourage you, if you feel like you need to, ask us anything, do that. We'll go out and look at it. Now, I will tell you this. I had a guy previously, when I was in office, asked me to come and look at his barn, had a barn that fell. Well, I took the property record card, which has all of his buildings on it, and unfortunately, there was a farm shop about 30 foot by 40 foot that we didn't have on. So, yeah, we took his barn off, and that was $1,000, but we had an $18,000 farm shop. So he was $17,000 in the hole. Same thing would happen if you had renovated your home. When we come, we look at the entire parcel to update it. Now, if that home is deteriorated, a lot of parents now have moved out of those. Kids aren't moving in them, and they deteriorate, especially your old, what I call farmhouses, Mr. Bill, that that may be built in the 20s or 30s. A lot of those, it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to renovate those because there's so much that has to be done. So we can come out and give it a look. We don't always raise it. We try to give you a fair market value on that appraisal.
Well, and that's all we can expect, right, is for you to be fair. Well, Terry, thank you for coming by.
Mr. Bill, we appreciate it, and thanks for all you do with the Chamber of Commerce.
Well, we appreciate you saying that. Folks, if you got any questions, give us a call. Mayor Jeff Mason has come by to see us today, and Mayor, just wanted to ask you a few questions about your office. Some folks out there may not know exactly what you do, and I know there's a lot of functions that take place in your office.
It's a wide-ranging office. I'll say that. I am direct supervision over EMS, the landfill, planning and codes, library,
and the finance office.
Budget and finance office. Yeah, I always get to thinking about it, and there's more there. But those 5 fall under my direct supervision.
Right, and you've got, of course, department heads in each one.
Department heads in each one of those.
Taking care of those.
Yes.
And
great department heads that do a great job, and I've got a great team, and that was one of the things that I inherited when I came in was a great team, and they've really been a blessing for me the last probably 15 months to, getting into this and getting started.
Oh yeah, the ladies in the office there, I have to deal with them on a fairly regular basis, and I know they know their stuff.
Or do they have to deal with you?
Well, they have to deal with me. That's what the dealing is. Yeah. Sometimes they let me come in.
Yeah, exactly.
What if somebody's coming to you? What's the function that you feel like your office people need the most from you when they walk in the door?
Well, in a small rural county like we are, we don't have an economic development group. We don't have that board that's there. We don't have that economic developer that just goes and tries to sell the county as far as on the commercial and industrial side. And one of the big jobs that I have is that's my job is that chief economic developer. And Bill, you work with me on that. You do a lot of work on that as well. Tennessee Central is big in that. Those guys do a tremendous job of helping us with our requests for proposals and getting those out. But that's probably one of my big jobs is those kind of things is the economic development side, as which, all rural mayors, that don't have that, that's what we do as far as that.
Well, it's a team effort, and of course you're the guy that kind of leads the charge.
Yes. I'm not the one per se knocking on doors and asking, but we kind of all come together and set a vision, and we kind of pick and choose which we want to go after, and we do those things well together because of the team we have.
Well, and you you work with and for the county court, and that's
Correct.
24 commissioners.
Right.
And you have you're chairman of that, and then you have Chairman Pro Tem that works with you.
Right.
And then that sets all the committees.
Correct. We have, we have several, our committees. We did something this year new with our committees. We shrunk that number down. We got rid of a lot of committees that basically weren't needed and combined some committees to make it a little more leaner. So the thinking behind that is less committees meet more, and that way there's always information being shared between the committees and the elected officials and the department heads, and they know exactly what's going on in their departments. It makes us better when it comes budget times because we know then the questions are being asked, and it just smoother transition. But this is our first time. We're going into it a little different this year in our budget process for how we're going to do it, but we're kind of excited about how this could change and see how it's going to work.
Well,
with the committees having a bigger say as far as making those proposals.
Right, and you're meeting more often now.
Correct.
It used to meet quarterly. Now they meet once a month. Is that right?
Yes, that is correct. That is correct. That was part of our corrective action plan through the state, was to go to monthly meetings, and if nothing else, it was just to make sure the commission was updated on financials as far as cash balances, POs, where we stood, throughout the year, and so they know where we're at and where we stand. So that was one of our things of getting done.
Well, and I know there's a lot of times that people don't understand. Sometimes the state puts and it's not necessarily a bad requirement.
No.
Sometimes it's a really good thing.
It is.
That they place on you that you have to meet and do. Like, for instance, I know one little thing that happened 3 or 4 years ago, if you have money coming into an office, you have to have one person receive it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Another person makes the deposit, and then another person delivers it. So it basically takes 3 people.
It takes 3 people to exactly. I mean, that's one of those things that happen, and that's. Once you start digging into those things and you realize that you have to do certain things a certain way, I mean, it limits what you can do as far as how you operate your business. You try to be as lean as possible, but there's some regulations and standards that you just have to meet, and you can't go under those.
Yeah, and most things we can, like for instance, our landfill that we have here, you inherited that. It was done back in the early 70s, and I've always said this is a statement that I make. I always said when we got into the landfill business in the 70s, we were in the landfill business. Very difficult to ever do anything other than
Absolutely.
that. But it's being run, as far as I can tell, the best possible way, and it looks like it's handling, like for instance, we don't pay anything for trash.
We do not. We do not, and that's something that we pride ourselves on, that you can go to our convenience sites every day, all day, 7 days a week, and it doesn't cost you a penny, which is, and there's some counties that I've talked to, they limit that to one, even limit it to one a day, and we don't have those limits on it, so that's a good thing. And you asked what the 3, and I kind of touched on economic development, so I would say there's 3 things that take a lot of my time, and that would be economic development, budget, and landfill. That's the 3 big things that it seems are the time consumers, and we spend the most time meeting and talking about.
Well, and I know I did a little research on this, and there's counties around us that people are paying $40, $50, $60 a month just to get their trash taken care of. So I feel like we're blessed because
we are.
That.
I mean, I can't sit here and tell you that I would love that we're glad
it's
to be.
It's probably not the best thing you're doing.
Well, no. Being in the landfill business is different, but it's something we're in that business, and we're working. We've took we're kind of I've got Johnny Lee, the guy out there running the landfills, does a great job, and we look every day and we're trying to make sure we're doing the right things. We're trying to staying in compliance with the state's a big thing out there, and I know that we've had a little, the brush has been a problem, and we've quit taking brush to the landfill, but it wasn't that we didn't want to take brush. It was just the fact that the state says, hey, you can't, because in the past we've been taking that brush, piling it out there, and then burning it, and then the state, we got to asking those questions, and our state regulator says, you can't burn brush, outside brush on an open landfill that's permitted. So we kind of had to stop doing that, and I know that's put a burden on some folks, and I'm sorry, but we try to stay in compliance and keep for lack of a better term, keep Big Brother off our back on that one.
Well, exactly. Another area that I think we do excellent here, and I believe our law enforcement is some of the best.
Oh, yeah.
And I couldn't say more good things about the sheriff and his folks there.
Nope.
But you have to handle the economic side of that,
Right.
And help them with their budget,
Right,
and
right.
Because all the budgets except the school budget falls
Under the general fund, yeah.
under the general fund,
Right.
and the finance director takes care of that. But ultimately, it lands at your doorstep.
It does. And once a budget's appropriated, we have little say as far as what is spent. We kind of try to watch and make sure, and that's one of the things that we're working on right now is we're putting in a new purchasing procedure, which we think, on the front end, change is different, but we think with this new purchasing procedure, it's going to be better because it will make you'll have to go get better. You're going to have more pricing and make sure you're shopping and getting your best deal. We took the public bid threshold up to $25,000. We still require 3 written quotes from $10,000 to $25,000, but we were spending a lot of money on advertising and bid openings just on anything over, for a $10,000 item, and we kind of looked at it and said, well, hey, I went and met with another county and see how they did it, and because I don't want to reinvent the wheel if somebody's already doing it. So we went and talked to Montgomery County because they've been doing centralized purchasing for 30 years, and we figured they were probably some of the best, and we're actually, still working through that and getting that rolled out, but we're excited about how that's going to change us and make us better as far as on the budget side, because at the end of the day, it's taxpayer money, and we want to make sure we're doing the right things with it at all times.
Yeah, and of course you have to deal with the amount of income that you have.
Correct.
I know this particular year a penny's worth about $39,000.
Correct.
And so we've got to operate within that budget and keep everything going.
Yes, and that's kind of how every time we can save money, I equate it to we've saved 2 pennies, and that's always what we're looking to do is fix those things and change it to where we doesn't take as much taxpayer money to run our government.
Exactly, because the most efficiency we can get out of it,
Absolutely.
It's in all our best interest.
Absolutely, and we've done a lot of different things with maintenance this year as far as our building maintenance. We've kind of been able to we've saved probably $10,000 this year just by changing the way we do things with our maintenance department. We've got some efficiency audits that are out, and we're waiting for them to come back to tell us where we can get better on that. It may take a investment on the front end to get the savings on the back end, but we're kind of excited to see how that works. And when you're dealing with these buildings, this courthouse is 100 years old, and
it's built in 1890.
Yeah, so it's over 100 years old. Our Turner building is old, so when you're dealing with older buildings, it's a challenge all the time because there's always something tearing up, and you're spending money on this, so those kind of things.
Well, it's good that of course my heart. I'd like to see us keep up like this historic building here, and I think a lot of people feel that way, and I appreciate you all doing what you do.
Well, we try our best.
Talking about the mayor's office again, Stacy is your.
Stacy's our executive assistant. She keeps my schedule for me and works on special projects. She's also, if you need to pay a bill for solid waste, you're out of county and you come in, you get your out of county solid waste permits there. One of her biggest things she does, she manages the rentals at the Ag Center, and that takes a ton of time because that's something that we do. But we're excited about that. We're looking at, and I'm not supposed to date, but we're looking at redoing our website, which we're going to add an online system of being able to reserve it. Of course, one of the big things we're doing is redoing our website, so we're really excited about that and how we can get more information pushed out to our people, make it much easier to do business inside the county government and with our local utilities as well. There, we want to be able to link off of those guys and do the things that you need to do. If you're not from Smith County, you can go to that website and basically get everything you need to know about if you want to move here and get here. So that's exciting. we're looking at, changing how we reserve the Ag Center, and I've met with some companies about doing some kind of different door locks, maybe going to, instead of the old coming and getting a key, you're sending a code, and that code lasts for 24 hours. Kind of like if you were renting a condo at the beach or something like that. So that's one of the things we're looking at, trying to make better.
Well, and those things save labor-wise.
They do.
And like you mentioned,
and a hassle-wise.
If you can go online and print your permit out and fill it out, take it to the office,
yes.
or if you can fill
Saves
it
time.
out, scan it and send it in, that's going to save a lot of time and effort.
Well, I mean, you just look around, Bill, and you see the difference in our economies and how our government, how our business. I mean, we are, as they say, a gig economy. I'm not really 100% sure what that means, but I'm learning what it is. But I know what it means that more stuff is online driven, and that's for us to be who we want to be. We've got to get a better online presence where it's easier to do business with us and in this county.
Well, Mayor, I think we're headed in that direction, and I appreciate what you're doing to help guide us there.
Well, thank you, and what you guys do at the chamber. It's a pleasure to work with you every day and get those things done.
Well, thank you for coming by, and what we'll do is we'll be calling on you occasionally to come by and just give us an update.
Well, anytime we can talk is a good thing.
All right. Thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Hey folks, we're so glad you joined us today, and we've got Jerry Lynn with us. I'm going to get her to introduce herself and tell you her office. She's one of our county officials.
Okay, thank you, Bill. I'm Jerry Lynn Vaden Malone. I'm the register at the Smith County Register of Deeds office. I have 2 deputies that work for me. It's just us 3 in the office, Tammy Butler and Rebecca Malone.
Okay, and I guess the basic function of your office, explain to them what that
Okay,
is.
what we do in the office, all documents in our office are legal documents. We work with the banks, we work with title companies, we work with real estate companies, and it is when you buy a piece of property in Smith County, of course, that deed, the property deed, transfer from one person to another is what's recorded in the Register of Deeds office.
Okay, now you're not necessarily required to register everything, but it's a good idea to do it.
Yes, you
isn't
need to keep the information, like a chain of title, from going back from the property owners.
Well, here's the thing that comes to my mind. You have a deed to a piece of property, you have it in your house, you didn't register it, you have a house fire,
Exactly.
then you don't have anything.
That's exactly right. We scan everything. We get the deeds. If someone was to come into the office today and bring a deed that they have picked up at a title company or an attorney's office, we record that deed that day and we give it right back to them. If they bring it into the office that day, we record it, give it back to them, but we scan it in. So we have a copy of that, and we'll always have a copy of that. And there's been some scams, actually, that have been from Colorado, California, and I think the other one was from Nashville, for property owners. When you transfer a deed in the office, usually 3 to 6 months, you'll get something in the mail saying that you can get a copy of your deed for $86, I believe is the amount. And it's a total scam. There is no such, we have, like I said, when we do record those documents in the office, we scan them in. You can get it for $1/4 a page in the office. So please don't take hack of that scam that is going on if you do buy property, because it will come to you in the mail. And it looks legal, it looks legit, but it's not. It's a scam.
Okay, well now your office, basically you keep the records of everything. I know we have our archives,
Yes.
and a lot of the records came from you to the archives.
Right.
So how far back do you go at your
We
office?
start at 1800. We
Okay.
start at 1800. We actually, June of 1999, everything is in the books, and we have a vault and have all the earlier records from 1800 on up through 19s, 2000, something like that. But we've ran out of the room, so we've got them all in the office. Of course, archives has got some of that information. We went on computer June of 99, so everything is on computer up until now. Everything is on computer. Everything is downloaded in our office every 15 minutes. So, if you come bring a deed in to record it, and then in 15 minutes it'll be downloaded onto another site, that you can, it's out there for public use. Also, all the documents, everything in the Register of Deeds office is public knowledge. So anyone can come in. If you wanted to backtrack your, the history of your piece of property where you live, you can go as far back, and we're there to assist you in helping you with that.
Okay, and I know you've got the office, and then you've got some record room there in the center, and in the vault.
Right.
And that's where all the leather-bound books are.
Yes, it is.
But like you're saying, that's all on a computer now.
From June of '99 till now. And I actually went in and back-scanned. I back-scanned 30 years back. So we're still in the process of indexing and verifying all those documents. But yes, you can pull those documents up on computer in the office now.
Okay, now, can someone that's outside of the office, can they go to a site and reach
It is
some
going to
of
be titlesearcher.com is your sites, or you can go, that's a paid site. You have a free 7-day demo, I think, on that you can actually look up the deeds to the properties and view those. I think they charge you per page if you're going to try to buy that on the titlesearcher.com. But you can go to the real estate data assessment, which is a free. You can look up all the sales data on that property, and it will give you the particular booking pages to each transaction that has taken place over several years.
Okay, and of course it's free to come to your office and look it up. Now,
Yes, it is.
like you said, it's a quarter a page if you do copies.
Yes.
But you could take a picture with your camera all day long.
Yes, you can. Yes, you can.
Okay, is there anything that, like the person that comes into your office, is there something I'm missing? I know archives, people looking up genealogy, pieces of property, things like that, deeds, wills.
Yes, no, we don't have the wills. We don't have the wills in the office. The wills are at the clerk and master's office. But now we don't just record the property deeds. We do judgments. We do the mortgages. When you buy, it sort of goes hand in hand, Bill. When you buy a piece of property, you're going to borrow the money from the bank. So that's going to be a mortgage. Then once that mortgage is paid off, they do a release. The bank will do a release saying that you've paid that mortgage off. All that is filed in our office. I mean, it's a number of things that we do record there.
Okay, so there's a lot more records than
Oh, it
just
is.
deeds.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Okay. I'm trying to think. I know you have to work with the tax assessor's office.
We do.
But you don't set the tax rate. You don't have anything to do with that.
No, the property assessor does that.
Yeah,
Yes.
and he does that in conjunction with the county court.
It's sort of, we're all in the same building at the Turner Building, and what happens is we get the deeds, we record the deeds in the office, then Terry and them gets the information from what we've recorded, and then Leanne, of course, the the trustee, Leanne, she's the one that, Terry sets the rate, Leanne does the payment of the taxes, of the property taxes.
Right.
And we just sort of work, but it starts in my office.
So basically, other than copies, you don't handle any money in your office?
No. Okay. We only have $33 in cash is all we keep in our office. So
that's a very good
yes,
thing.
and we do cash or check. We don't do debit cards or credit cards. There's a charge to that. And over the years since I've been there, there's not been a lot of people. Some people say, you need to get in the real world or whatever it is. But we don't have that many people that want to use the credit cards. And but we do cash or check.
Well, and it's a small amount.
It is.
Anyway,
Yes, it is.
Because they're just doing a few copies.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Okay. Well, anything you can think of we've missed?
No.
What are your hours?
Our hours are Monday through Friday from 8 to 4, and
you're at the Turner Building.
We are at the Turner Building, and we're at the end of the hall. It's 122 Turner High Circle, Suite 113. That's Carthage.
Okay, and you're naturally, when the county has a holiday off, you're off, but
yes.
you're there all during the week.
Yes, right.
And I'm trying to think if there's anything else. If a person wants to come by, or give them the phone number again.
Okay,
so
our phone number is 615-735-1760. And if you have questions with anything dealing with property transfer, deeds, or anything, just give us a call. We'll try to help you. If not, we'll send you to someone that can.
And one last question that I thought of, Tennessee Property Viewer is on, and they can view that. Now, it is not as completely accurate.
It is not.
It is close.
They don't update that, Bill. I don't know how often they update that. I've asked Terry about that, but It is not accurate a lot of times. I know people have called me and said, I'm seeing on there's this cell that has, a certain cell has went, and I'm like, no, we've not done anything on that. We would get it first. So it's out there, and I don't know where or how often they do update, but it's not. It may be 3 months. I'm not real sure.
So if they're looking at Tennessee property or before you make any decision, you need to come to your office or Terry's
most
and
definitely.
check it out.
Yes. Okay.
All right. Well, Jerry, I started calling you Terry
okay.
Collins. I
That's
apologize. Jerry, thank you for coming by.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you.
All right. Okay, we're glad to have one of our county officials here. Now, well, introduce yourself first and tell them your office.
I'm Yvonne Gibbs. I'm the Administrator of Elections in Smith County.
Okay, now, you are not elected, though. You are appointed, is that right?
I am appointed,
Yeah, and
yes.
what we're doing here, we're going to explain to you about the election office and kind of how it functions. So you're appointed. Now, who appoints you?
I have a election commission made up of 5 members, and they are the ones who appoint me.
Okay, and how does a person get on the election commission?
They are appointed by the State Election Commission.
Okay, I know, and the reason I was on it at one time, and it is a very important job that these folks do, and they help set and basically guard the elections through your office.
They do.
Okay, now, your office, first off, let's go over personnel. How many folks are there in your office?
I have one, we call her a deputy, that helps me full-time.
Okay,
So
and that's Shannon.
That's Shannon Armstead, yes.
Okay, and of course you. Now, when the election is going on, though, you have to have a lot more people. So how do you gain your people to do the election?
We hire about 70 people to do an election.
Mm-hmm.
I have a very good group of poll workers. Most of them come back. I couldn't do it without them. I couldn't, and I can't say enough about them. I really can't. We are always looking for new poll workers, so if anyone's interested, we will be sure to take their information.
Well, maybe you should give your phone number right now while that thought is going.
It's 615-735-8241.
Okay, and if you're interested in working in the polls, you can do that. And I know a lot of people that have done it. In fact, my mother for many years did that until she got to a point where she didn't feel like she was able to. And it's a very important job because the vote is a very sacred and precious thing that we have in this country. And I can't express enough how you should go out and vote and register and make sure you're voting. Okay, now let's start with your office. Do you register people to vote?
We do register people to vote, and there's different ways that you can register. You can register online. That's sort of new. It's been in the last couple of years. You can come in and register. You can register by mail. We also have state agencies that register people. So we are handling a lot of registrations from different venues, different
areas.
Areas,
okay.
Yes.
Okay, well now, once a person's registered, then of course they vote in a particular precinct.
Yes.
And they have to go and vote there. But now you have early voting.
We do have early voting. We have early voting at the Turner Building, and it's usually about 3 weeks before each election is when it begins.
Okay, and it goes up to?
About a week.
About a week.
Or half a week. Yes.
Okay, and are you finding a lot of people avail themselves of that?
We have about a 50 to 60% turnout for early voting.
That's phenomenal. It really is.
It is.
Okay, if a person wanted to know about, like for instance, say they decided they wanted to apply to become part of the election commission, do they call the state and get their name put on, or do they call you and express an interest? How can
To get
they
on
do that?
the local election commission?
Yes.
They receive their names from a source. I really don't know. I mean, I assume it's several different places they get names.
Okay, so
I think they do talk to the General Assembly about it.
Okay, so they may talk to the state rep and the sheriff and the mayor, and it could be anybody then. Okay, so if you're interested in getting on the election commission, you got to kind of spread the word about it. Okay, Is there any other function in your office? I know it takes you a lot of time to get ready for an election, and there's a lot involved that people don't realize. Maybe you want to go over that.
Well, it takes us about 6 months to do an election. And when you have 3 elections in 1 year, it definitely overlaps. Our regular elections are in August and November, so it does always overlap. Once districts are determined by our county commission, and that's done every 10 years.
Right, which is coming up in 2020.
It begins the end of 2020, yes. We have to find polling places to put in that district. Those polling places sometimes are not ADA compliant, and we have to send supplies for those polling places so that we can accommodate people with disabilities. I'm trying to think what else we do.
Well, I know you use some schools, and there's various places that have been used for pollings. I know the Chamber of Commerce currently is a place that they do
That's
that.
true. So, I mean, we just have to make sure the supplies we send out, it's a phenomenal amount of supplies. And again, my election workers are moving those supplies back and forth. So they do work hard.
Yeah,
they really do.
And you've got the electronic voting machines, right? Currently?
Yes.
And so
Yes.
you have to transfer them to all the polling places.
And we've
How
got-
many of those do you have?
We have several. We have, it's over 35, I think, 39,
Well,
somewhere in there.
I knew it had to be quite a number because I know at early voting you got like 6 or 7 set up.
We usually have 6.
Yeah, and so that's good. Well, is there anything else about your office or the function of it that you think people would want to know or need to know?
I mean, just in general, the voting laws, we have federal voting laws and we have state voting laws. Everything we do is based on those laws. Each election has over 60 deadlines that we have to meet, and they are deadlines, they're not suggestions. So it is a lot that we are controlled by these laws. It's not what we always convenient for us, but we do have to meet those deadlines. We also, candidates, they come into our office and get a petition to start the process of running for an office.
Right, they have to get the signature
They have to get the signatures
of registered voters.
of registered voters. We also have handled the campaign financial reports for those candidates. So we have a lot of that.
Yeah, and I know the last time when I ran for a political office, I had to open an account, and of course I had to let you guys know all about the finances that were in that, make reports on that, and what I felt was like wisdom when it was over, I closed the account and gave you the final write-up on that.
Right. You know, there's a lot of little steps. Sometimes it gets complicated, but it can be worked out simply if we just work together, usually. You know, after every election, we do audit it. We go through and make sure every piece of paper a voter fills out, that it compares with the number of voters that go through. It's a lot of work to audit, and then we certify it. It's not just when the election day's over, we're done.
Right, because if there's a close vote, say it's within 1 or 2 votes of something, then you've got to audit that closely, and then when you certify it, that's the way the election went. But sometimes they get appealed, don't they?
Sometimes. It's a little rare.
To my knowledge, I don't know that it's happened here.
I don't know of any incident here.
Yeah.
I don't.
But sometimes, and I really don't know of an election that's been that close over the years. I guess there's been some
There has. So, but you know, every couple of years too, we go through every voter registration, and people forget to tell us that they've moved, understandably. So we have to go through our registrations and just double check and make sure they still live in Smith County.
Okay, well now, if a person has moved from one address to another, they really need to let you know that.
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
It makes election day a lot smoother for them to vote. If they've moved out of the county, we can't transfer that registration to another county. They have to go and register in the county like a new voter. So there's some misunderstandings there. Now, if you live in one part of the county and move to another part, we can handle that transfer.
Right, because you just moved from one district to another. But when you move out of the county, you're moving into a totally different jurisdiction.
Correct.
Okay, when you register and you're set and you're ready, got everything set to vote, well, I guess I've lost my question there, but what I was going to ask is about when somebody lives in a house like their child and say they're off at college, do they still, can they come back and vote if they're 18 and they've registered? Can they come back here and vote? They don't.
Our residency laws are a little complicated, but usually a student who's away at college can come back here and vote on election day or early voting or sometimes by mail. If you register by mail, you have to vote in person the first time.
Okay, but it's kind of, and I'm going to oversimplify it, but you have to live in a district to vote in that district.
Yes.
And you have to live in a district to run for an office in that district.
Yes.
And if it's a county-wide office, of course, you've got to live in the county to
Yes.
be able to run for that office. But you still need to vote in your precinct unless you're doing early voting.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
All right. Well, is there anything else that you can think of?
At the moment, I cannot. No.
All right. Well, really appreciate you coming by, and I hope, folks, that this has let you know a little bit about the Election Commission and basically what kind of job they have. It's an extremely important job and one that could be under scrutiny at any moment.
Oh, we are under scrutiny all the time.
All the time. So you have to be very careful about
Yes.
that. Okay. Well, why don't you give them? I know you have a website too.
We do. It is Smith County Election, and that's singular.com.
Okay, and if you go to the smithcounty.gov website, you can also hit, there's a
link.
tab there, and it links back to this, so you can get all this information on the website. And of course, give the phone number one last time.
It's 615-735-8241.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Thank
and
you.
Appreciate all this information.
Thank you.
Did you know that you can save a life with the medication naloxone that can be given during an overdose situation? It can actually reverse that opiate overdose and save someone's life. And you can do that. I can do it. And we want to see lives saved. Thousands of lives have been saved in Tennessee since we've been having the Tennessee Save a Life program. And the Drug Prevention Coalition gives free training and a free nasal spray naloxone to anyone. There is no cost to that, and it's very simple to use. The Good Samaritan law protects anyone against civil liability, and we just ask everyone in our community, organizations and individuals, to call us at the Drug Prevention Coalition office at 615-588-1622 and ask for Suzanne Angel, who is our regional overdose prevention specialist. She'd be glad to set up a training for you. And again, you can save a life with naloxone. Please call us.